Hey everyone, I'm Hannah Rule. I'm coming at you from home, um, as every one of you out there is also at home. I'm making this recording today because the University Press of Colorado and the CSU Open Press is releasing the print version of my book, Situating Writing Processes. And I wanted to share an excerpt from the book with you all, not necessarily something that's representative of the book's main concerns and its arguments, but a part of the book that is about considering the spaces from which writing comes. Certainly, we're all, I am thinking a lot about where I am and where we are um, in these strange days. So, this excerpt comes from the end of chapter 4 in the book. I want to end by emphasizing this important point. Seeing the wheres and with whats of our students' processes also reveals exacting social, political, and economic pressures. These kinds of material and environmental considerations come to light in Anna Ronson's 1999 study of 7 adult undergraduate women writers who are also caretakers, parents, partners and spouses, employees. Through interview, Ronson shows especially the gendered constraints of the concrete situation in which these women do their writing for college. Situating her inquiry against Woolf's call for a room of one's own, with money to live and the lock on the door, and Ursula Le Guin's narrower material requirements of just a pencil and paper, Ronson reveals some of the conditions in which our students, especially those who are women, adults, and to varying degrees socioeconomically disadvantaged, compose for us. Though their writing spaces vary, for all these women, space and time for writing is essentially inseparable from domestic space, with its attendant demands and gendered inequities. The women interviewed write in cramped spaces that are subject to relentless trespassing and interruptions. Invoking Tilly Olson's poetic and bitingly acerbic musing on all that goes unwritten in the world, because women and others are saddled with competing impositions on their time and creativity, Ronson has us face how differing conditions, material, economic, political, might lead to different written results for these women and others. Ronson's study shows that writing processes in their everyday concrete conditions are never just about their immediate dynamics. Rather, every right here of writing is shaped by bigger constraints and broader inequities. Private or domestic material dynamics are public ones, as the personal is the material, is the political, is the economic, is the racialized, is the gendered. Because she recognizes the strong imposition of these situational dynamics, Ronson is skeptical of Le Guin's belief that all writers require is bare minimum tools, as his viewpoint suggests that assuming responsibility and control of one's writing is an act somehow separate from the material condition. It suggests that internal conviction is independent from external constraints, that our internal selves can carry on lives of their own, apart from the spatial, temporal, and other resources of the external environment. Ronson's point rings to me with a devastating accuracy. Writers simply cannot bootstrap themselves beyond or outside of the material, social, economic conditions that shape lives and writing. Writing processes are always and always of their places and of the world, never independent of it nor willed to transcendence. Ronson's work leaves me feeling how important but overlooked writing is as a material practice. She leaves me concerned about space making and the inhospitable designs of universities and colleges, as John Locke's work has pointed out. She leaves me thinking about silences precipitated by students' night shifts, single parenthood, depression, hunger, fear of violence, housing insecurity, intellectual difference, or other sociopolitical and systemic vulnerabilities, ones which we can see and those we may never. She reminds us of what we know, but that which nevertheless feels so far beyond our intervention, that literacy is largely determined by economics, access, and privilege, and that it might be less the bridge to mobility we might believe it could be. Ronson reminds us, as literacy teachers and as citizens, that we must continue to dismantle systemic disadvantage and inequities of all kinds. She makes me think at the same time, though, that we should fight another familiar message, one that seems on its face less concerning, but one that is still insidious. We ought to kick around, too, that picture postcard myth of, quote, real writing that is always cloistered, private, and sustained. Writing process is not just matter, is not just a matter of cloistered focus, not a set of somethings that real writers always do and have, nor just or ever well-preened, disembodied, photo-edited writing desks. Privacy is also ideological, not an abstract good in itself, but a small tyranny reproduced especially, as Christy Fleckenstein has discussed, in the reproduction of academic spaces and the status imbued in the academic's closed, private office door. But Fleckenstein emphasizes, quote, the need to control the degree of disruption in a physical writing scene evolves with the belief that an academic must shut out life, must separate the life of the work from the life lived, from the body from the mind, unquote. This ideological network of seemingly common sense assumptions in turn would devalue the, quote, discourse and knowledge that evolves when scholars write standing in their kitchens or sitting by the kitty litter, unquote. While spatial norms are consequential, they are also not static nor categorically determined. As Fleckenstein's concept of somatic mind suggests, we are always placed, yet we are always on the verge of new placements that disrupt and reconfigure materiality and discourse. That is, as women who might be more, quote, culturally predisposed to carry with them their peopled space, continue to attain higher and more conventionally cloistered academic offices, or as increasingly unsteady markets of academic labor continue to undermine both spatio-economic privilege and security, the meanings and experiences of academic space too shifts. Ideologies around material conditions and knowledge always might be otherwise, and of course, not necessarily for the better or the more liberating. Undoubtedly, the experiences of the women writers in Aronson's study are constricted by the weight of gendered norms and the specifics of their material environments. We ought to fight still for Woolf's door lock, for those writers in Aronson's study, and for all individuals, for equities and access, for ever more equitable planes of discoursal authority. At the same time, we can undermine the mythic ideology of the picture postcard of writing. Who says effective, impactful, beautiful writing can't be forged in the middle of, rather than separated or cloistered from, complex domestic lives and multiple social roles? In spite of the impossibilities and partialities, we should look for all ways writing unfolds, always in excess of official spaces and sanctioned means. Multiplying images of processes show writing as inseparably of the world, and by accruing images of processes' differences, the materialities of access and of writing might be recast differently. Take care of yourselves out there and others. Thanks for listening.